the top 10 or they all have that capability. And so they do have a nice rotation of bigs that can run the floor and can block shots, and they're all relatively young. Say what you want about Miles Turner. I know 8th NBA season. He's still young. He's still in his prime, and so they've got a good foundation in the front court.
He's Jeremiah Johnson, sideline reporter for Valley Sports Indiana, here on The Fan. You know, Jeremiah, I want the Pacers to lose every game. I'm just being honest, because I think that draft-wise puts them in the best potential spot to have a brighter future. So I'm thinking more long run here. But the question is, when you're with the team day in and day out, and you see the work they put in, and you see the grind and the professionalism and all of that, and you hear the tanking conversation or the losing conversation where someone's thinking about the long run, what do you make of that whole thing?
Well, the good thing is, I think when the season started, I was a little worried that the conversation would have been a little louder than it has been. I understand the feeling of you and some fans when you see what happened in January and early February, and you think, okay, well, this was a fun season. Now let's focus on things that really matter. But that's nothing that a player can be concerned about. I mean, you're at the NFL Combine, or you guys are talking a lot about that this week. A player that's currently on a roster, the way they view the draft is someone that might come in and try to take their opportunity. So when they're going to play, that's the last thing they're concerned about. Now, obviously, once the season is over, you've got young players that are going to be here for a while, and they're looking at making this team as good as it can possibly get, and the draft is a big part of that. But I will say it's not been that loud of a conversation, and I am interested to see the rest of this road trip and maybe into next week, because coming out of the All-Star break, you had 4 out of 5 on the road, and then I think you've got that home game against Philly, then you play Houston, and what I said was, of the first 10 out of the break, there was an opportunity to make one last push. And if you're not able to do that, reality probably would set in, and even the most, win every game you can Pacers fan might acknowledge what you were saying earlier. But the coaches and the players, I mean, they're here to win. And I know being on the road, it's a lot different feeling on that bus and in that airplane and at shoot-arounds and practices when you get a win. And they've not been able to experience that for a couple of months, and it wasn't through lack of effort. So I do feel good that they were able to have that win in Orlando and then follow that up with a game that no one expected you to win. Those are the best kind, the wins that no one thinks you can win, and to get that in Dallas. We're headed to practice here in San Antonio shortly. I'm guessing that there's going to be a really good vibe around the team. And so there are all the teams that are maybe 10th through 15th in their respective conferences. They're kind of close. So I think it'll all work itself out accordingly, and you'll just have to see what happens. And maybe you hope the basketball gods shine on you at some point, because the Pacers, I think they could be due for a little bit of luck in that area.
You getting any shots up on the road at all, Jeremiah?
Every once in a while, sometimes we get to the gym before the players do, and there's a rack of basketball sitting right there, and it's March now, and so I can't help but get the juices flowing a little bit. I put up some shots in the practice court in Dallas the other day, but I do know that I haven't run up and down in a full court setting for a while, and I'm not sure that I'm prepared to do that yet. I'll stick to the treadmill for my cardio.
Yeah, protect the Achilles. Just get up the shots. Don't be running up and down the floor.
Yeah. Once a Hoosier, always a Hoosier.
There you go.
Knock down those shots.
There you go. Good stuff. Thanks, Jeremiah. Appreciate you, buddy.
Thank you, guys.
It's Jeremiah Johnson, Valley Sports Indiana Pacers, a 124-122 winner over Dallas last night. Pacers have now won 3 of the last 4, and back at it tomorrow night against San Antonio.
Hey, by the way, Vince, when we were talking about the whiners in the NBA, I think that Luka's whiny face accentuates his whininess and separates himself from the other whiners. Are you with me on that? There's something about his face. He just, it's like he's crying in a way, like, how could you not call it? I think that puts him in the elite of the elite territory.
Yeah, I would agree with you. He's got that look. But sometimes people just have it. They're not naturally a smiler, or they've always got kind of that frown.
Yeah.
But he's kind of got that whiny look on his.
It's a little bit like, now Eli was just moping. Eli Manning, when things weren't going his way, he would have the moping face. But it's along similar lines with Luka. I think the Eli moping face, it just stands out in your mind more.
Isn't it amazing, though, about Eli, the sense of humor that we have now seen from it? Because I'm with you. As the quarterback, he always kind of did have that look. And like he would be the least likely guy you'd want to hang out with. And now with the Manning cast and all the different things he's doing outside of the game, now that he's retired, he seems like maybe he would be the guy you'd want to hang with.
Absolutely. He really does. And it's funny. I think the same thing with Peyton, where Peyton was so businesslike. He was a grinder. He was all about the task at hand and all that stuff. And now that his career is over, both Peyton and Eli are hilarious.
Yeah.
And I never thought they were going to be that funny. I should have known when Peyton did the SNL thing and the skit with the YMCA was just hysterical.
Yeah.
I should have known.
Throwing at the kids.
But I was so used to like a decade and a half of him being so serious that I'm pleasantly surprised he's this funny. I should have known from the commercials also. He always had the timing, and it was just good stuff with Peyton Manning. So I'm happy they're both funny.
The Pacers winners last night, and I saw some high school hoops last night too. Came home from that and had to, thankfully able to rewind and watch the games. And that was a busy night last night with watching IU and the Pacers back. But saw a couple of good high school games last night. High school sectional action going on around the state. Jimmy was down on the south side.
Really?
Calling some games.
Look at Jimbo over there.
I saw Carmel and Westfield. Big win for Westfield, knocking off Carmel at the Carmel home gym. And then the second game was Fishers and Hamilton Southeastern. If you get a chance to see Fishers, they've got a sophomore, Jalen Harrelson, who had 30-plus last night, and he is a really solid player. 6'7" sophomore, and if you get a chance along the tournament trail, I guess they'll be playing Friday night in the sectional semifinals. You might want to go and check him out. So he is legitimate, that's for sure. Always good to see these kids when they're young, and because we're going to likely be watching them for years to come. But to say, yeah, I saw that kid when he was a
Sure.
sophomore. Damon Bailey. I remember Damon Bailey as a freshman. Seeing him as a freshman in high school, and then as his career went on and so many expectations, and yet lived up to them all, it seems. So it's interesting to see these young guys doing it at the high school level.
Absolutely. I remember seeing Sean Kemp at Concord High School way back when.
I called his games in the Final Four high school championships.
And he was so fun to watch. The Rain Man obviously going to the Seattle Supersonics and the whole thing. But you know what's interesting? This is going to sound, Vince, like I'm anti-replay, and I'm really not. But when you think about the high school level, and there was a big charge call last night in the Westfield Carmel game, right? I love that when you're watching high school hoops and you see one of these big calls, like that's just the call. That's it. That's the way it's going to end. You don't go to the replay. You don't say, hey, let's take a second look. Hey, maybe that ball was out of bounds on the other team. Like whatever the call is, that's the freaking call. And I think it's interesting because you almost have to reprogram yourself to be like, oh yeah, that's right. There isn't replay in high school sports. And it is a bit refreshing. Sometimes if they screw something up massively, you're like, man, I wish there was replay. But there is some type of charm where you're like, whatever the call is on the court, that's the call. It's not changing.
It's the great thing about high school basketball, I think. And certainly, especially this time of year in the state of Indiana with the state tournament. So catch your sectional action if you can here in the rest of this week. Hey, I just saw the announcement come over that former Pacers media relations director David Benner has passed away. And for those in Indianapolis, you read David in the Star, a longtime writer for the Star before he made the transition over to the Pacers organization as the media relations director. And I've known David a long, long time, just had lunch with him